Hello, fourth year students. Today's lecture, My Last Duchess by Robert Browning. Still, we are in the Victorian age, and this is a poem which will reflect one of the new problems we said that emerged in the Victorian period. And the previous poems that we studied, Crossing the Bar and Dover Beach, you remember the themes were almost similar. Both poets were talking about the problem of faith versus doubt, the problem of religion in the Victorian period. Now we will see that with Robert Browning's poem, we have a new problem that is reflected in poetry, which is, as you notice, is the problem of women's rights in the Victorian period. So the title, My Last Duchess, remember we said it reflects something actually. When we say Duchess, we are talking about a lady which lives, a lady from a high rank in society. And when we say my last, so there could be first Duchess, maybe second Duchess, third Duchess, we don't know, we are not sure. But when we see this, my last, it means that there is a certain order maybe, and this Duchess that the poem is talking about is the last one. So the Duke and the Duchess, you know these titles, the Duke and Duchess. The Duchess is the wife of the Duke. So the Duke in this poem, maybe he has many wives before this one, and this is the last one. So this is what the title suggests, and also the use of this pronoun my. So he's talking about the Duchess as we can think of it as a possession, something like this. So this is just a brief idea about the title. Let's see the poem, or before we start with the poem, let's see what we should know about the poem. So this poem is loosely based on historical events involving Alfonso, the Duke of Ferrara, who lived in the 16th century. So some critics, some historians, when they read the poem, they believe that there is a story, a real story, historical one, about a real duke. And Robert Browning could have taken this story, and based on that, he wrote this poem. The Duke is the speaker of the poem. So here you have to pay attention, as I have told you many times. Sometimes the speaker is someone else. He's not the same as what? The poet. So you have to pay attention here to differentiate between the speaker and the poet. In this poem, we have a speaker who is totally different from the poet. The speaker is a character. So we can think of the poem as if it has a certain timeline, story, maybe. We have characters. So the Duke is the speaker of the poem and tells us he is entertaining an emissary, or we can say messenger. Emissary or messenger is someone, of course, who's sent by some other person in order to negotiate something with the Duke. Okay, so who has come to negotiate the Duke's marriage. The Duke has what? He has recently been widowed. His wife is dead. So he's now preparing himself for a new marriage. This marriage is to the daughter of another powerful family. So, you know, those people from the same class, they marry from their own class. So there is this marriage arrangement that was supposed to happen between the Duke and this guest who's a messenger from the other family. Okay, so this is something around the poem. What about Browning? What is the most important thing that we need to know about his poetic style? Browning is widely recognized as a master of a dramatic monologue and psychological portraiture. Dramatic monologue, you have to pay attention to this term here, dramatic monologue. And if we want to give a brief definition of this technique, we can say here, it means what? A character speaks to a listener from his or her subjective point of view. So we have a speaker, a character, and it's the only speaker. Okay, there could be a listener. If we know the story, if we know the other characters, maybe there is a listener to this speaker, and sometimes the listener is just supposed. We suppose that maybe there is a listener, maybe not. But the most important thing is that the speaker is speaking alone by himself. Nobody else is talking, just him. This is why we call it monologue, the speech of one person. Okay? In doing so, the character often reveals insights about him or herself, often more than intended. So sometimes when you listen to someone speaking for maybe hours, through their speech, you are able to identify what kind of person they are. Sometimes, even if I don't describe this character for you, based on the way this character speaks, you can conclude its characteristics, its qualities, what kind of person he or she is. Through dramatic monologue, he reveals the character of the Duke. So here, Browning used dramatic monologue, and we will pay attention to this. Actually, as we read, we will see how the Duke's monologue reveals his character. We are going to conclude certain qualities from his speech. We are not told about these characteristics, but we are shown. Dramatic monologue allows us to what? To see these characteristics, to conclude them. Okay, so let's see the poem itself here. And of course, I think you are now familiar that you should follow the colors. So here the text, here you have the text of the poem, and here you have an explanation. So you should follow the colors, okay, to know each part what is the explanation suitable for it. That's my last Duchess painted on the wall, looking as if she were alive. I call that piece a wonder now. From Pandolf's hands worked busily a day, and there she stands. Will it please you sit and look at her? So from the first line, we understand actually that the Duke is showing this messenger, this guest, a painting for the Duchess, the late Duchess. So the speaker, here the Duke of Ferrara, directs the attention of the messenger to a painting of his former wife, the Duchess of Ferrara, which hangs on the wall. So all is left of this Duchess is a painting on the wall. So the Duke is keeping a painting of his late wife. Who painted this? It is Fra Pandolf. He is the painter of this portrait of the Duke, the Duchess. When you read what the Duke is saying here, that piece a wonder, you see? So it seems that the Duke actually likes the painting. He admires the skills of the painter, okay? He admires what the skill of the painter in depicting the lady. Why he would admire that? Actually, according to what the Duke is saying, that the painter was able to reflect the Duchess's deep feelings, okay? Why? Because if we continue reading, we will see. I said Fra Pandolf by design, for never read strangers like you that pictured countenance, the depth and passion of its earnest glance. So the painter was really skillful that he could even what? He could even depict the depth and passion of her looks, the look in her eyes. You see, the look in the Duchess's eye is also reflected in the painting. So what kind of skill this painter had. So from the beginning, we could assume actually that Duke likes the painting. This is what he shows us. But to myself they turned. He's talking about anyone who sees this painting, strangers like this messenger, like anyone else. When they look at the painting, they would turn to him, to the Duke, okay? Since none puts by the curtain I have drawn for you but I. Actually, the painting is not shown for anyone. there are curtains covering this painting, and the Duke, when he chooses to show this painting to anyone, he would draw the curtains. Okay, so it is not something that anyone can see. So what does the Duke do? Sometimes, for certain guests, he would draw the curtains and he would show them the painting, and he thinks that actually they would turn to him and ask about what? And seemed as they would ask. Actually, nobody asked him in reality. Nobody, not the even the messenger. Have we heard his voice? No. Actually, the Duke, he assumes that those who look at the painting would ask a question. So before they even ask, he would answer them. So what does it tell us about the character of the Duke? Well, he seems to be a really what? Dominant person. He even gives himself the right for example, to say that people think in a certain way, and he's going to what? To answer them. When in reality, actually, nobody has asked them about it. If they durst, notice here, if they durst, he even believed that people would not dare to ask, but he would assume actually that they would ask. How such a glance came there? I mean, what kind of painter is this? How was he able actually to draw even the reflection of feelings on the Duchess's eye? You see? So not the first are you to turn and ask thus. Actually, the messenger didn't say anything. This is just in the Duke's mind. So, although the Duke never asked the messenger, لا هنا لازم نبدلهن. We should say what? We say, although the messenger never asked the Duke. Okay, let's correct this here. Although the messenger never asked the Duke, but due to his dominant character, he assumed on the messenger's behalf that he would ask, and so the Duke will answer him. Okay? So the Duke actually, he even thinks that people would notice in the painting what he himself notices. You see? So let's see the Duke's answer. He said, "Sir, it was not her husband's presence only called that spot of joy into the Duchess's cheek." So the Duke suspects that what made the Duchess seem happy and shy in the painting was not his presence during the painting sessions. It seems that our speaker here, the Duke, is suspecting his wife. He thinks that the joy which appears on her face, on her cheek, wasn't because he was present. Perhaps Fra Pandolf chanced to say, "Her mantle laps over my lady's wrist too much." Notice here between two inverted commas. These are notes that were given by the painter to the lady. As he was painting her, he gave her some notes. Or, paint must never hope to reproduce the faint half a flush that dies along her throat. You see? So the Duke thought that actually these notes that were given by the painter to the Duchess, this is what made her feel, you see, shy. This is what made her actually have this kind of happy looking on her face. Why would such notes make her happy, according to the Duke's opinion? Such a stuff was courtesy, she thought. So notice here, she thought. I mean, the Duke believes that he is able to know what the Duchess was thinking. How do you know what she thought? How do you know? She didn't say it. He just what assumed. So all these things are actually just in the Duke's mind. We don't know for sure whether the lady was actually really having, let's say, or was she really thinking that the painter's notes are courtesy? Who knows? Maybe she didn't think like this. Maybe it was just kind of happiness or joy which was appearing on her face, but because she was being painted, not something else. Yeah. Okay, and cause enough for calling up that spot of joy. So our speaker actually is suspecting his wife. He suspects that actually her happiness is because she felt that actually the painter is maybe flirting her, maybe he's being so nice to her, and she took these nice words or these notes or remarks as what? As what? Courtesy to her. Now, notice here in this part that the Duke is going to describe some of, let's say, we can say examples of the Duchess's behavior according to him, which shows what kind of person she is. She had a heart, how shall I say, too soon made glad, too easily impressed. She liked whatever she looked on, and her looks went everywhere. So it was not very difficult to make this lady happy. You can say anything to her, and she would be impressed by that. She would say that she likes everything she sees. You see, so at a certain point, it seems that the Duke believed his wife was what? Was naive. Okay? She was naive, kind of person who would easily be pleased and would believe everything so easily. Okay? So maybe he thinks that his wife was what? Superficial. Anything, even the slightest, even the trivial things could make her what? Could make her happy. Any trivial and small thing could make her happy and blushing. Okay? Like what? Notice here. Sir, 'twas all one. It was all one. Everything seemed to have, or seemed to bring the same reaction from her. My favor at her breast, the dropping of the daylight in the west, the bough of cherries some officious fool broke in the orchard for her. So even presenting things like what, for example, if some fool, notice how he speaks about other people. He referred to them as fools. So if someone gives her a cherry bough from the garden, this would make her very happy. When she looks at the sunset, it makes her happy. Okay? So if she's riding a white mule, look here, the white mule she rode with round the terrace, all and each would draw from her alike the approving speech or blush at least. So notice what kind of things they are. Riding a white mule, looking at sunset, giving her something very trivial like the cherry bough. I mean, all these things that seems very sound very silly and ridiculous would make her happy all at the same time. Yani, we can say that she gave the same amount of interest and attention to everything and everyone. Okay, of course, this description of the Duchess uh, came to us through the Duke's speech. So we couldn't say actually that the Duchess was like that. This is what's going on in the mind of the Duke. So is the lady like this really? We don't know actually. We should see her, or maybe we should listen to her so that we can judge her in a right way. She thanked men. Good, but thanked somehow, I know not how, as if she ranked my gift of a 900 years old name with anybody's gift who'd stoop to blame. So, what is the other problem the Duke is facing here? Actually, he didn't even like what? The fact that she was being nice with men, and thought that she is making him with his 900 years old name equal to those men. So saying thank you to people is something nice, actually. This is a sign of politeness. Okay, but he thought that even this very simple act of thanking man, لاحظوا هنا يقول man, he didn't say people, he said man. So our duke is actually feeling jealous. He thought that when she does this, when she thank men, as if she's making them equal to him. And he believes that actually nobody is equal to him. Why? Because he's not any ordinary duke. He's actually a duke with history. He has a 900 years old name. He's from a well-known family. Okay, well-known ancestors. So he didn't like this actually, and he thought that she's lowering him by this. Who'd stoop to blame this sort of trifling? So one would think if he thought that actually the Duchess is behaving in this disgraceful way, why didn't he actually tell her? So he's answering us here. Even had you skill in speech, which I have not, to make your will quite clear to such an one, and say, just that this or that in you disgusts me, here you miss, or there exceed the mark. So the Duke here is saying that, actually, do you think I would have the skill to speak? And this is irony, actually, because you see, the Duke actually knows how to speak. He's a very good speaker, but he claims or he pretends that actually he doesn't know how to speak. Okay? The Duke thinks that if he would give her remarks on what he thought, let me add the T here, what he thought to be a disgraceful behavior, he would be lowering himself to such trivial thing. You see, so here when he said, I would not, for example, tell her that this or that in you disgusts me. I would not say that such a thing. Or I would not say, for example, here you missed this, or you shouldn't do that. No, I would not lower myself and say such things. Okay? And if she let herself be lessoned so, nor plainly set her wits to yours, forsooth, and made excuse, يعني she would actually give excuses maybe for that. Even that would be some stooping, and I choose never to stoop. Okay? He chooses never to stoop or bother himself with lecturing her about her behavior. Even if she would give explanation, actually, maybe she would defend herself and tell him that actually what you think is wrong. This is what you have in mind, and this is not real. But he would not even allow her to defend herself. Okay? Oh, sir, she smiled, no doubt, whenever I passed her. But who passed without much the same smile? Oh, you see, so the Duke didn't approve on her smiles. He thinks that she doesn't smile only for him, she smiles for anyone. And this is not acceptable for him. Okay? This grew. What is this? يعني here, this refers to what? The situation, the whole situation, the smiles, actually. He's talking about the smiles. So the situation continued. It was growing day by day. According to the Duke, that the state of the Duchess couldn't be left like this. He has to do something. So this grew. I gave commands, then all smiles stopped together. See, the Duke has power, actually. He could give commands. So the Duke hints at giving his orders to make her smiles disappear, which is a clear indication that he killed her. Okay, how else could the smiles disappear if it wasn't that he actually that she was killed? So her smiles what disappeared. You see, the Duke even didn't have the, or we can say that he wasn't ashamed of himself. He was clearly saying that he killed her. This is a very clear indication, although it could be euphemism. I mean, he was saying it in a very nice way. I gave commands. He didn't say I killed her, but he said I gave commands and all the smiles stopped. But it's very clear that actually he killed her in the end. There she stands as if alive. Hmm. So the Duchess is only alive in the painting now. She's dead in real life. Will it please you rise? Now actually it seems that the Duke has ended his his speech about the painting, and he's asking the messenger, let's go and join the others. We'll meet the company below then. I repeat. So maybe there's something that the Duke said before this to the messenger. I repeat, the Count, your master's known munificence. So now he's speaking about the marriage. You remember we said that the messenger came to negotiate a marriage. So he's discussing this here. The Count, your master's known munificence. I know that the Count is actually generous. Okay, he's well known to be generous. Is ample. His generous is very ample. Is ample warrant that no just pretense of mine, no just pretense of mine for dowry will be disallowed. So, in that period, actually, women were the ones who give dowry, not men. It was women. So, the Duke actually believes that any amount of dowry he would ask for, he would be given. Okay? You see, he believes that he could ask for any amount of dowry and claims that the Count daughter is his object, though his fair daughter's self, as I avowed at starting, is my object. So he claims actually that he's not after money. What he's concerned with is the daughters, the Count's daughter, the lady. Okay, but notice here the use of the word object here. This is very interesting actually. Object here, it gives us this impression that he treats ladies, his wives, or ladies in general, women, as objects. He believes that the Count's daughter is just another object which could be added to his own possession, just like the last wife he had, the last Duchess. Okay? For him, the new wife is just another possession. It is another object. He treats women as objects. Okay? Nay, we'll go together down, sir. Notice Neptune. So as they are going downstairs, uh, on the way, what did they see? Actually, they see the statue of Neptune. You see, actually, the Duke seems to be someone who enjoys art. He likes artistic things like, for example, paintings, statues. His house is filled with them, but it's actually something really strange. Someone who has characteristics of the Duke, how could he appreciate, or how could he be someone who really understands the importance of art? Okay, so this is something ironic actually in the character of the Duke. Notice Neptune. Who's Neptune? Actually, Neptune is the god of sea in mythology. And the Duke has a statue of this god of sea in his house. So as they were going down, he called the attention of the messenger to look at this statue. What was the statue of Neptune like? It was what? Taming a seahorse. Taming. Here, this word is really, really important. Taming. It's also mentioned in the poem here. Taming. Okay. So what's the point? Why he would refer to the statue as they were going down? Uh, Actually, he's thinking of himself. You can understand it like this: that he thinks himself to be what? To be some kind of a godlike figure. Okay, godlike figure, taming his wives. You see, so he believes actually the relation, it seems that the relation of the Duke with his wife is just like the relation of this god of sea with the sea creatures, taming them. Okay, it's not a relationship of equals. Okay, thought a rarity. This statue actually is a rare piece, which Close of Innsbruck, sorry, cast in bronze for me. See, for me. So our speaker actually is really self-centered. He only thinks that everything is about him, about what he thinks, about what he desires, about what he likes. Okay, so it is a statue that is made only for him. Okay, nobody else have such a piece of art. It is just for the Duke. It was made actually for him. So from the beginning till the end, the only speaker in this poem is the Duke. Through his speech, through all the things that he said, what did we conclude about him? Let's have here a brief conclusion in the end. The Duke, we can say, is arrogant. Okay, he's very arrogant when he spoke, for example, about what the Duchess thought, when he spoke about his 900 years name. He's really arrogant over all people around him, over the messenger, over his guest, over his wife. Okay, he's really proud about himself. He thinks that actually he could ask for any amount of money and no one is rejecting him. He's selfish. Everything is about himself, about what he thinks, about what he owns. Okay, he wants everything to be for himself. He's control freak. Control freak. He wants to control everyone and everything. He's abusive, actually. Why? Because he gave himself the right to suspect the Duchess and then finally he killed her. He's manipulative. متلاعب. Why? Because remember when he said, actually, I don't have the ability to speak, or I don't have the skill in speech. On the contrary, actually, ironically speaking, actually, he's a very, very skillful speaker. He's really able to speak and use words. Okay, he's trying to be humble, but this is really fake humbleness and dominant. Actually, from the beginning till the end, no one else is speaking, just the Duke. So he dominates the speech. All these characteristics are concluded through this monologue. Actually, Robert Browning didn't tell us anything about these characteristics. He didn't say anything about the Duke himself or describe him for us. We concluded all these things. He shows us these characteristics, and as readers, we were able to understand them. The poem is a critique. Now let's see the general idea of the poem. The poem is a critique of objectifying women. The Duke thought of his late wife as an object he possessed, and he used his power to kill her. He even claimed that he knows how she thinks. Okay, so I think it's very clear actually that the poem is talking about this main problem, the problem of that many women actually lived in such conditions in the Victorian period. It was really hard for them to get their rights. It wasn't something easy. Women were treated as objects. Actually, here we can say that the poem suggests that women were not treated as independent individuals. They were expected to be dependent on men and rather an object in their hands. So women actually, you remember we said many things about the condition of women in the Victorian period. They didn't have the rights to vote or access to education, property. They wouldn't inherit property. They were not represented in politics, for example. So women actually were not thought of as independent individuals in society. They were objects. They were suffering many times. Actually, they were suffering from male dominance. Okay, so this poem we can mainly say is a very good poem which gives us a story that hints to these problems of women. Okay, so My Last Duchess is a very good example of a poem from the Victorian period which gives us this idea about the condition of women in this period. Although it has a story from the 16th century, but still it was very good employed by Robert Browning in order to show or reflect the problems of women in the Victorian period. This is all for my last touches. And of course, if you have any questions, you can ask in our group in Telegram. Thank you very much for your listening.